Hello and welcome to my September reading wrap up. We have a lot to get through today, and most of it is, once again, Mary-Kate and Ashley Two of a Kind series. I was really close to actually finishing the series. For a while there, I thought I was going to make it. I thought I was going to finish this series in September. 4 books short in the end, so I've still got 4 left for next month. Because it's October now, and that means spooky reads only, which means those are out of the question. Though, funnily enough, the one I'm up to is a Halloween story, I'm pretty sure, so could work, but no. We're taking a break, we're getting through some Goosebumps and some other stuff. First up, I read The Folk of the Faraway Tree. This one was 4 out of 5 stars. It's unclear if one of the characters suddenly found herself unable to speak due to an off-page incident, or if the author simply got sick of her. But for some reason, one of the main trio rarely spoke in this book. She just hung around in the background. Aside from that, this book was just as brilliant as the first 2, full of curiosity and wonder. Who else wishes they could live near the Enchanted Wood? I do have one issue with this book, though. Early on, the children noticed the red squirrel had a hole in his jumper, and they promised to fix it for him, and then never did. I was incredibly disappointed in them for this, especially considering how much that squirrel does to them. Next was Two of a Kind Island Girls. This was 3 out of 5 stars. Honestly, not a lot of thoughts about this. Definitely a little different to the usual drama, but at the same time, it's the exact same drama. Next up was Sinner's Creed. This is the autobiography of the lead singer of Creed. I was going through a bit of a hyperfixation on Creed for a couple of weeks there, and I found out he had a book, and immediately had to order it online. I even had to sign up for a stupid Christian bookstore website, and now I keep getting emails from them, even though I told them I didn't want emails. So, I went through a lot for this book. And it was worth it. It was great. It was a great book. And I actually dropped pretty much everything else I was reading to read this. I usually don't do that. I usually buy a book because I'm like, yes, I'm going to read that immediately, and then I get home and then I don't touch it. And I have books here that I did that with a decade ago, and I still haven't read them. This, I started reading it within a week of it arriving, and I didn't know how to function when I finished it, because that was it. There was nowhere else to go with the hyperfixation. What do I do now? So anyway, Sinner's Creed was 4 out of 5 stars. I rarely manage to read a book as soon as I get it home, and even then it takes me a while to get through them, but I started this one within a couple of days and finished it in 4 days. I was so invested in this, partly due to a brief fixation on Creed, but partly because Scott Stapp is genuinely an excellent storyteller. This book isn't just telling us about his life, the things he's been through, or how he got through them. He's inserted fragments of his life into this book, little splinters of his soul printed across the pages. There are chunks of conversations or scenes from his past written as if they would be in a novel, filled with expressions and emotions tied together with the lead-up and the aftermath. He knows how to pull emotion and make it land the way it should. There's also some excellent use of that up and down thing novel authors do, where a chapter might be good and suddenly something bad swoops in at the end for a cliffhanger, and then they alternate. In short, this book was devastating, heartbreaking, emotionally wrecking, and it kept me clinging to every word right to the end. It also gives a lot of insight into religious abuse, the dangers of cults, and the effect these things have on children. Two of a Kind Surf, Sand, and Secrets. 3 out of 5 stars. At a certain point in the series, these books stopped having original, unique plots and instead just repeated the same formula with a few tweaks. This one is not one of those. It's less predictable and definitely not something I was expecting. Two of a Kind Closer Than Ever. 3 out of 5 stars. Not a huge fan of the casual manipulation that goes on in this one. You're supposed to be best friends and support each other, not whatever this is. I do love the way it worked out in the end, though. It was quite sweet. Two of a Kind, The Perfect Gift. 3 out of 5 stars. For some reason, every character in the series stepped into this particular book and chose to be insufferable. Ashley was at least trying to do things with good intentions, but pretty much everyone else was just awful in one way or another. The main plot with Mary Kate was riddled with selfishness and a new character being fed up with it, and with good reason, only to cave and help in the end. They painted this new girl as a villain when she hadn't done anything wrong. The ending was quite wholesome though, so that kept it at a neutral 3. Squeak. 3 out of 5 stars. 3 stars, but it's a high 3. The first book in the Asher Chronicles series is a wholesome story showing us that friendship can come in many sizes and forms. This was a fun read with lots of laughs and a few tears in necessary moments. Two of a Kind, The Facts About Flirting. 3 out of 5 stars. Ashley, stop meddling and mind your own business. That's it. That's the entire book. Two of a Kind, The Dream Date Debate. 3 out of 5 stars. This one is a little silly, a little fun, and a little cute. End of notes. Two of a Kind, Love Set Match. 3 out of 5 stars. This one confused me. They've been at boarding school for half the series at this point, including in the previous book. In that book, where they both have boyfriends, the entire plot revolves around their relationships. And then suddenly in this book, they're going to a camp and they're single. No mention of the boyfriends at all, and they're flirting with other boys. And one gets a new boyfriend for the duration of the 2-book plot. There have been a lot of continuity errors in this series that I've just brushed off, but this plot makes absolutely no sense. It still gets a neutral 3 because if we ignore the timing, it's still a solid plot and it's definitely a fun one. But what the heck was this? Two of a Kind, Making a Splash. 3 out of 5 stars. A continuation of the previous book's plot, but with more energy. This one is more exciting and more interesting, but still loses points to being confusing. I feel like the timing was just wrong. Maybe if it had happened at a different point in the series, say prior to the boarding school, it may have worked brilliantly, but instead it's been shoved in the middle of a timeline that doesn't make sense. The Virgin Suicides. 3 out of 5 stars. While the main subject of the book is the family of girls who died, they don't seem to be the main focus of the book. There's a lot less about the actual suicides and significantly more about the fantasies of the teenage boys who lived on the same street. I found the format interesting though. Instead of being written as a novel, it's written as if from the point of view of someone giving a presentation. There are references to documents, photographs, and souvenirs taken from the girls, and the words are largely an explanation of the events from the boys' point of view. It's a slow read, and much of the book is spent waiting for something to happen, often for any event to blow over within a couple of pages. The racism throughout the book, and ableism, a few uses of the R slur, also took away from it a bit. Two of a Kind, Dare to Scare. 2 out of 5 stars. I was excited about the Halloween theme, but it honestly wasn't that interesting. A lot of the book was the same thing happening over and over again. The ending was pretty fun, but that's about it. Honestly, I feel like this book had a lot of potential, but they just missed the mark. And yes, for those following along, we're suddenly back at the boarding school as if the previous plot never happened. Two of a Kind, Santa Girls. 4 out of 5 stars. I read these to escape adulthood for a while, but this one is only a reminder that no matter what we do or what we plan for, another expense will always come along to mess with our plans. Two of a Kind, Heart to Heart. 2 out of 5 stars. Because a mother sending her son a Valentine's Day song is kinda creepy. And for the repeated use of Pookie. But this book had some fun ideas and could have been kinda cool if not for that. The way they take the initiative to do a fundraiser to replace the DVD player in their common room, very cool. And the idea they used for it is pretty unique. Two of a Kind Prom Princess. 3 out of 5 stars. I liked how this one shows a different side of Dana and gives an explanation for some of her comments and behavior. That still doesn't justify a lot of her actions, though. How to Die Famous. 2 out of 5 stars. This would have been a 3 if not for the whole, let's take a real person's history and trauma and copy it almost exactly to use as the backstory for a character, claiming it as original work and profiting off it for entertainment thing. I'm honestly not sure how that made it through legal either, especially with the references to Ariana Grande by name in negative statements. The author is quite lucky he hasn't been pulled up for this stuff. The story itself had an interesting idea, using a parody of something like Nickelodeon, called Omnificent, as the main setting, right down to the creepy director. The characters were interesting and engaging, each with their own backstory that provided personal experiences and reasons not to trust Omnificent. I was really holding on at the end, wondering why I still had so many unanswered questions, but the epilogue tied them all together in an extra final plot twist. This book isn't as much about trying to figure out who the bad guy is, but watching the characters figure out how to stay safe and escape the rules they're bound to follow. It's pretty obvious right from the start who the bad guys are, both to the reader and the characters, but the smaller details and explanations we pick up along the way give us something to stay invested in. Two of a Kind Camp Rock and Roll. 3 out of 5 stars. Like, 70% of this book is just Ashley making a promise to Phoebe and immediately forgetting and dismissing her for something more exciting. Two of a Kind Twist and Shout. 3 out of 5 stars. I'm used to and understand the inconsistencies in this series, especially when there are several different authors writing the books for it, but how does this two-part that had both books written by the same author still have inconsistencies? In part 1, the girls are playing soccer, but in this one it's football. So that's it. That is what I read in September. Have you read any of these?